And James, only one place to start really, and of course that announcement on Friday. Now, obviously the caveat before we say anything is it has to be ratified and it's not set in stone yet, but the potential news that there'll be playoffs and the Cobblers will be involved is some really good news, actually.
We think, it is good news in terms of, for us as a club. I think the biggest positive to come out of Friday was the fact that we started to see a direction and a road to travel on for the rest of this season. And, I think it was as you saw with the amount of numbers that had kind of agreed in the indicative view, was that it was the right way to go.
And it's the kind of announcement, as you said, a clear-cut kind of strategy. It's the kind of announcement that fans have been waiting for a while, and these things take time. We've never seen this situation before, but that bit of clarity now with the season ending and obviously that playoffs, it allows the club to plan as well.
Yeah, it's very difficult. It seems like it's a simple decision, and when you actually look at what the EFL have to do in the background in talking to the FA, the Premier League, the National League, etc., and the Sky and all the TV obligations, there's a lot of moving parts behind this in the background. So it's not as a simple decision as people think. And and there's obviously from the start there's the health and safety concerns and dealing with COVID from that. And I think the overriding principle has always been that everyone wants to play if it's safe to do so. There isn't a single person that says anything differently. But you also then have to weigh up the financial commitments for that when football clubs don't have any income. So we have to be, and that's why it's easier for a Premier League club to decide to play for the rest of the season than it is for a League Two club. So all of those things have to be weighed up. But we do know that now, and the fans can now start looking forward to, for us in particular, playoffs, and for other clubs, it's next season. So we can start planning for that, and we now have to get on to the serious business of planning for playoffs once this decision is ratified. And
that's what you mentioned there, that other teams won't have this. Other teams will have got had the 6-7 months of kind of hard work, and it's a bit galling because it doesn't amount to anything. But the Cobblers do have that shot at promotion, and that's a real positive and something for the fans to cling on to a season that it would have been disappointing if obviously it had come to nothing.
I think it's like anything else. You have to fast forward sometimes and look at the end of the season. People are disappointed and people are happy in a normal season. It's just, I think the frustration will be more so now that you haven't actually played all the games, but it's an unprecedented situation and something we've never dealt with, and it's and we're just trying to, as clubs and as leagues and as administrators, just trying to figure out the best way forward. You have to give Port Vale and Bradford some credit in voting with the collective and seeing how important that was for them that have been affected, the most from the decision in terms of not getting into the playoffs, and even Exeter probably had a shout of automatic promotion, and now they're going to have to play the playoffs, and they took a similar sort of decision, in terms of the vote. So, yeah, it's not easy for anyone. I know League One have got similar, challenges ahead of them in terms of how tight that is at the top, and there are some clubs screaming and shouting about how they want the table to be finished and playoffs to be played. So it's not going to be easy for anyone, and for teams and clubs that they've got nothing to play for. Then it's disappointing as well, because the season does just fizzle out. But the reality is the financial commitment to finish the season was huge. It was a lot. We're talking a lot of money for clubs to finish the season, and if you haven't got much to play for, it's very difficult to see how you could justify that. So I understand it. The financial commitment. The financial commitment to playing in the playoffs is decent. It's not that wasn't an easy decision in terms of because normally you get excited and you get encouraged that you get to the playoffs and there's a celebration, and then you're going to look forward to ticket sales. You're going to look forward to more sold. You're going to look forward to commercial income, etc., etc. This is a very different proposition because you're actually you're not getting any of the income, and you've got increased cost base because furlough and the testing protocol of testing everybody probably twice a week or maybe 3 times a week. Those things add up and they're expensive. So from a club perspective, there's definitely a cost to the playoffs, but we've taken a view that we want to give ourselves as much of a chance for promotion as possible. And our fans have backed us tremendously in terms of season ticket refunds, and we've had more emails and inquiries about buying season tickets for next year than we have about any refunds. The vast majority of people have said that they want to donate the money to the club or not ask for a refund, and we're in the background. We're working on some things. James and the team are working on some things where maybe we give fans the opportunity to donate to our academy or the youngsters, etc., or something like that. And so we are working on that, and we'll have that available once this decision gets ratified. But we do appreciate the fans for doing that. But that helps us make the decision to make the financial commitment to give ourselves a chance in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's fantastic. The support that the supporters, of course, have shown the club in that respect, and the financial points you brought up were really fascinating, though, because I suppose you've been losing the revenue, and you've had to account for the lost revenue in terms of home games, etc. But now, at least, I suppose you can plan somewhat. Now the rest of the fixtures have been scrapped.
Yeah, well, once it gets ratified, we can certainly, put some things in place, and to ensure that, as a club, I think our reputation is strong enough that people know that we try and do the right thing, and we'll be fair and reasonable, and we'll always take that view. And this decision won't be any different, and we'll just try and put a procedure in place to ensure that we are fair and reasonable. And I think our fans will be fair and reasonable as well in that way, and they'll look at it and say, it's not like from a football club perspective we've made a bunch of income and we're asking people to make donations. The reality is, we've lost that income, but the key is for now that stuff we'll work on over the next few weeks. Once this, I think there's still a bit of time before this decision gets ratified anyway. So that we'll work on that, and we'll come up with a plan on that. And I think fans will be appreciative of that, like we are to them. But in the meantime, we've now once this decision does get ratified, we get some dates for playoffs. We now have to focus our mind on trying to be as successful as possible within that, while following all the procedures and the guidelines to ensure that it's a safe environment.
Yeah, just back to the playoffs, and you mentioned a bit earlier about the kind of testing protocols that might be implemented. Just on the practical ways in which it's going to be done, do you know of any of the time scale, how long players are going to have for training, when the matches might be played, and of course, like you mentioned a second ago, about the testing protocols that the players and staff at the club will have to go through?
Yeah, no, we don't know too much detail, because we definitely only had a principal conversation on Friday, and the indicative view that we gave was based on the principles of finishing the season and playing playoffs. But again, the overriding principle of all of this is that we're trying to keep to the rules as much as possible within the EFL. So if you take that principle, then I do expect a home and away leg and a neutral venue final. In terms of timing, the sort of timing is normally about 10 days, 2 weeks for a playoff and a final. Sometimes it goes a bit longer because of the final. But if you took that view and spoken to Keith, and Keith says, the truth is the lads and Keith said they could be ready tomorrow if they had to be, but would ideally like 2 to 3 weeks to prepare themselves physically for the first game. And I think that's the general view of the clubs in the playoffs around that sort of time. So, and we do have it's really an artificial deadline, but it's actually an important deadline of June 30th. So you would want to try and get everything concluded by then because of the player contract issue. So if we could get stuff concluded by then, it'll be beneficial. So hopefully we'll get more detail of that over the next sort of week or so, and we can really put preparations in place. But I know Keith and the players will start stepping up their training, their individual training at home. And I know Pablo, on the fitness side, has will be implementing that with the view that hopefully we'll get to use that over the next sort of 6 weeks in terms of the playoffs and the playoff final, hopefully. Now, in terms of the testing protocol, we have received quite a substantial document from the EFL as things stand right now in terms of testing and the protocols. And James has been going through that with the medical team and the club doctor and the staff, and to ensure that we'll be following those guidelines, if not taking it a step further in some areas, just to ensure the safety of the players and their families, etc., and the staff that will need to be involved in this process. So it is, it's going to be an expensive process. It's going to be a lot of hard work from people behind the scenes. I think the testing is probably twice a week at a minimum, probably plus before a game. So, you could be looking at three times a week, and ensuring that I think they have to be temperature controlled every day, tested temperature every day, questionnaires every day in terms of how they're feeling, which we tend to do anyway as a club, for some of the even some of the psychological stuff that we do. But yeah, so it's going to be a lot of work, a lot of making sure that the players are in a safe environment and can go out and ply their trade on the football pitch.
Brilliant, that's all from me. Thank you very much for that, Kelvin.
Cheers, Joe.
Hi, Kevin. Yeah, just on the playoffs. I mean, how confident are you that they will actually go ahead, given that it still needs to be ratified and much does depend on what happens in League One as well? Do you fully expect them to go ahead?
I would say that we're pretty confident. I would say I'm relatively confident that yes, it will go ahead as agreed by League Two clubs. You remember, the EFL is a member organisation, so our vote does count for quite a bit, and all 24 clubs said that they would. Their indicative view was that they would, vote for this, for there to be a promotion and a playoff structure in place. And we've always said that government and the virus itself will dictate what happens over, in the future. And so, but all the indication from government is that we're starting up again, and in a as safe a way as possible. So. As reasonable, so we are. I would hope that it looks to be moving in that direction. Obviously, we don't know exactly what's going to happen in the future. We can't predict everything with this virus, but we definitely have to move along relatively confidently.
Mm. And then on player contracts, I've seen a few clubs have announced their retained list over the last few days. I guess you're going to have to hold back on that for now.
Yeah, it becomes no different to, if you made the playoffs anyway. The reality is you tend to announce your retain list, after the season's finished, and our season still continues, and everyone, in truth, everyone's season is continuing at this point until it's ratified. But once it's ratified, some teams will, their season will finish and ours will continue. So, and I'll be talking to the players this week, and we'll talk through that. We've had very good communication with the players, and I think a few of them have said that in the past, few weeks in their own interviews. And we've constantly spoken to the players and Keith about all of this, and that will continue. And I think the players will just be focused on trying to get to League One, because that changes their position anyway.
Yeah, on the players, there's been a few reports of players maybe in the Premier League not so sure about playing on, but at the Cobblers, are all the players ready to go, and had no reports of any players maybe feeling a bit wary of playing again in this situation.
The call we had last week before all this was that they're ready to play and they're ready to go. Nicky confirmed that. Has confirmed that since with the manager, and so listen, we'll respect every decision that the players make in terms of this. It's unprecedented for us. It's unprecedented for them, and they're the ones that are going to be. At some point, everyone's got to take a risk. Like we do every day. So that's going to be up to them and their level of risk and what they're comfortable with, and we'll respect that as a club, and we'll work through that, and we'll talk about that, and we'll all make decisions together. So, but as far as I know right now, every player is raring to go, and they want to represent the club and represent the fans the best way possible.